Hello! You are listening to CPA Career Path channel with Rosie Flaherty, CPA MSA. This is episode number 38. We will discuss about the CPA journey with Math Kid, CPA PFS, President at Plunder and Kidd Accounting and Consulting. Beginning in August, the podcast will be released every Monday at 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Thank you so much for the interview today, Matt. I met Matt at the AI CPA Leadership Academy in last October 2022. And also I met Matt again at AI CPA Engage Conference in June 2023. So I'm very happy to have Matt for the interview today. Matt, can you just introduce a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, first off, I'm excited to be here with you. This is quite the honor. You're the AICPA Outstanding Young CPA Award winner. I think you're a Toastmaster from our Leadership Academy days, and if I remember right from Engage, I think you're the best zipline photographer that I've ever had too. So, yeah, glad to join you.
Thank you so much.
A little bit about me is I'm a small firm CPA in Metro Detroit. Went to Hillsdale College. Been practicing as a CPA for about 10 years. So I don't know if you wanted me to go a little bit deeper, or if we're going to kind of touch on that type of stuff as we go into the questions.
Yes, so we will go in details from very beginning in college. Let's start from college. Why did you decide to go with accounting when you were in college?
Yeah, so I was initially interested in accounting because my dad is also a CPA, worked in a mid-sized local firm in mid-Michigan, did a lot of tax, accounting, audit, kind of all across the board. So I had a good idea of what the good, the bad, and the ugly was in the profession as a high schooler. And, like most 15-year-olds, I looked at the 70, 80-hour tax seasons that he worked and thought, that must be fun. I should give it a shot. But no, the truth is, when I got into college, I was initially leaning towards doing accounting, but I really enjoyed econ as well. So I was choosing between econ and accounting as a major, but I was in college in 2009. So about the depths of the Great Recession. And I looked around and I saw a whole lot of unemployed bankers and finance analysts with econ degrees, but I didn't see any unemployed CPAs. So I decided that, I really wanted the job and didn't want to be in the parents' basement when I finished up college. So that was really what solidified my choice as a CPA at that point. But fortunately, once I've gotten into the profession, I've realized how rewarding and incredible it is.
That's interesting that you mentioned your dad is also a CPA, because I talk to a lot of people when both mom and dad are CPAs and kids, they do not want to follow their career path. And I think you also have siblings that they also are CPAs, right?
Yeah, so I'm the youngest of three boys, and both of my older brothers are also CPAs. And believe it or not, our dad didn't have a gun to our head. He completely let us choose what we wanted to do. So,
wow. So I'm just curious, what did you see in your dad's career as a 15-year-old boy that you see that you want to be like him in the future?
Well, I was really fortunate that he was very open about what his career truly consisted of. So that included, the interactions with the clients, internal issues with the firm. So that's where I say I really understood the good, the bad, and the ugly. And to me, when you take it as an entire picture, I had the opportunity to see what the long-term outlook was for the life as a CPA in public accounting, which to me was quite enjoyable. Yes, you had to work hard in the tax season, which absolutely my dad did. But we also spent, my brothers and I, we would spend the bulk of our summers up north at our cottage. And my dad would come up usually 3-4 days a week and hang out with us at the cottage. So seeing that balance is really what drew me into the profession.
I see. And so during the time you were in college, did you have any internships before you graduate? or you find a job right after you graduate without having internship experience?
Yeah, so I did 2 internships when I was in college. Say probably the greatest experience I had though wasn't an internship. It was when I cooked in a bar in northern Michigan the summer after my freshman year of college, because I think I got more life experience out of that than I did out of any internships. And,
That's so interesting. Can you say more details about that?
I mean, it really just the biggest thing was it kind of forced you to learn a sense of calm. Because if you've ever, anyone who's ever worked in the service industry or worked in a kitchen, it's relatively utter chaos. And there's always something that's going wrong. And you just need to learn how to deal with it, fix the problem, and move on to the next one, which realistically is exactly what being a CPA is. There's always going to be issues that are coming up. You've just got to prioritize which ones are the biggest, resolve them, and move on in a calm fashion.
So did you study for CPA exam right after you graduate?
Yeah. So, and then after I worked in the bar for one summer, I did do an audit internship with a large local firm where we audited school districts and car dealerships. That was where I learned that I didn't see myself as an auditor long term, just because wasn't my cup of tea. Then the year after my junior year, I actually interned for Thomson Reuters, which is one of the major software providers for tax and accounting firms. And really, I did that to get a taste of industry. I was leaning towards wanting to do public accounting, but I wanted an experience in a large corporation in industry to see what that was like. And again, I got a taste of that, realized it wasn't what I wanted to do. So I was just kind of narrowing things down one by one of what I didn't like, hoping eventually I'd find something that I did.
Yeah. So did you have any issues or any problems when you studied for CPA exam? How long did it take you to pass the exam?
So since went into college with a reasonable idea I wanted to be a CPA, I was fortunate in that I really front loaded how many credits I took in college. So in a typical semester, I took somewhere between 17 and 21 credits. And they were generally like I would take 15, what I would call real credits. So courses that actually mattered. And then, I don't know, I might get in trouble for this, but the remaining like 5-6 credits a semester, it would be we didn't offer underwater basket weaving, but I took scuba class and tennis class, golf class, the theory of NCAA sports. So then I was able to get those extra credits that I needed for the 150 and not really add much to my workload in that process. So by doing that, I was able to have my last semester, my senior year, I only had 6 credits. So I started studying for the CPA exam in that last semester. So it depends state by state, but some states, including Michigan, you can sit for the exam shortly before you actually graduate. So I actually sat for one section of the exam right before I graduated, a second section immediately after I graduated. And then I didn't start working until the fall. So I just studied full time immediately after graduation through the end of June and took those last 2 sections. Because I think I also had the benefit, you mentioned both my brothers being CPAs. I watched them go the route of making it through 70% of Becker, failing the exam, making it through 72% of Becker the next time, failing the exam again, third time, making it through 90% of Becker and passing the exam. So after getting to observe them, I was like, I probably ought to just put in 100% effort the first time and knock these puppies out.
So you passed all 4 sections in just the first attempt. That's good. That's really good because I was struggling passing those sections. It was not fun. I would do anything to not take those sections again.
Yeah, I think it is to one unfortunate. I think I was just a naturally good, I understand, which some people are and some people aren't, and it's fortunately no real indicator as to how good of a CPA you'll be, but it's just a fact of life. And I mean, the other thing is that any time you can have a window that you can devote solely to that CPA exam, you're going to exponentially increase your odds. And it's so tempting to take that summer off and hang out with your friends and play beer league softball and go to bar trivia. But if you just sacrifice a few months when you've got that free time before your start date, makes life so much easier down the line.
Absolutely agree with you about that. As soon as you just get it out of your list, pass the CPA exam, your life is just so much better. So you mentioned that your first job after you graduate, is that the job you work at Clayton and McCovey PC?
Yep. Yeah. So I worked there right out of college. I think I started in October. Worked through tax season, and then for new CPAs entering the profession, they may not know of this, but there used to be a thing that we'd refer to as Black Friday, which was generally the Friday right after tax season, where a bunch of people would get fired. And I was one of the people that immediately after tax season I got fired. That was kind of like a calling the herd mentality. So that was how I started off my rock star public accounting career, was working 6 months and getting fired. And the upside is I could only go up from there. I mean, you were in the gutter 6 months in.
Yeah, but I have never heard about Black Friday. You are the first person who brought it up to me, this definition of Black Friday, that they fire tons of people right after busy season. Mm-hmm. Is that something still happening now, or it just happening in the past only?
No, so I mean, it hasn't happened recently because we have such a shortage of CPAs, and I think it's somewhat of a industry shift as well. Whereas it used to be, it was a standard because it was viewed as calling the herd. So you had the best people stayed in public accounting, and the ones that weren't viewed as the best would get flushed out. I think fortunately that's changed. And also, I mean, fortunately for me, it didn't discourage me to go out of public accounting. But I think for a lot of people, it does.
Yeah, and so right after that, you moved to work at another CPA firm for about 2 years.
Yep. So from there, I went to go work for a small firm that did mainly small business tax and accounting. And that was what I focused on. And really there is where I learned that was what I enjoyed. I refer to it as fairly simple work from a CPA standpoint, because when it's tax basis, cash basis type stuff, with a lot of service-based businesses, but you get to work directly with the clients and you have an opportunity to make a direct impact on them and see how your work can help improve their lives.
So how many people at that small firm that you work for those 2 years?
Yep. So there were probably about 15 people total in that firm.
So within just 2 years, you had a chance to communicate directly to clients. The reason I bring up because a lot of time they do not let new staff to communicate with clients unless they are a senior or above. And so new staff will be just sit behind the desk and just get everything done and then move up to seniors or managers to review. So how come you can have a chance to communicate with the clients at that early?
So I'd say, I mean, the biggest thing was luck. The firm was a pretty flat structure. So, I mean, of those 15 people, I think 5 of them were partners. So you really only had a couple of staff under each of the partners, maybe had 2 or 3 staff for each partner. So there wasn't a lot of hierarchy. So basically, as soon as you were able to display that you were competent enough to ask the right questions, the partners were generally happy to offload the communication to you because it freed up their time. So I think the biggest thing was just luck, landing at a firm that was structured in that way. And the second thing was just being consistent and showing up. I mean, make sure you're always presenting yourself well. I mean, that includes, I dress pretty casual now, but at that time, I always was dressed well, showed up on time for meetings, always was very respectful and mindful of how I spoke around the clients.
So how was your experience when communicating with clients at that early stage in your career?
Incredibly nerve-wracking. No, I mean, I think like truly, I mean, you'd write an email that today might take 5 minutes to write, or I'd have AI write it in 30 seconds. But back then, I'd write it in 5 minutes, and then I'd spend an hour rereading it, tweaking it, slightly making slight changes, half clicking send, and realize, no, it's not quite ready. And just kind of that paranoia in your head that is mostly unjustified. I think there is a certain degree of care when you're building credibility with people, that it is important that what you say is accurate and professional. But you don't need to beat yourself up over the communication nearly as much as you think you do. Or I'm just crazy. I'm not sure.
Because like sometimes it's very nervous when clients come to the office and then sit down and talk to a young staff, because they may think that this young staff may not have enough experience to sit down and talk to them. Have you ever dealt with that situation?
Yeah. And I mean, a big part of that is how well your supervisor sets you up. So again, I was lucky in that the partner I worked for was, would speak well of me in front of the clients, encourage the clients to contact me. And the other big thing is that somewhat intentionally, if the clients contacted me, I would respond very quickly. If they contacted the partner, there would be more of a delay. So I think that is the biggest way to help get communication shifted, is if you have an understanding with your manager that, hey, if an email goes to both of us, the manager will hold off for a half a day or a day to give you a chance to respond, because clients are like everybody. They prefer instant gratification. So if they can go to you and get that immediate answer, they're going to start coming to you on a regular basis.
That makes sense, because a lot of time, whenever the client reach out to managers or to partners, especially for partners, it takes longer time for partner to respond a question on email. But yeah, so when they come to seniors or like manager, it will be faster than comparing with the partners. So that makes perfect sense. Since it's so good and feel like you got a lot of experience from communicating with the client at early stage, why did you leave that firm in 2 years?
So I went over to another firm that was a sole proprietor that was right by my house. In my conversations with that sole proprietor, the thought was that it presented a path to partnership. Whereas the current firm that I was at, as I said, it was a very flat organization. It's almost like a shared services type setup. You had, 5 partners that were kind of sharing administrative expenses, but it wasn't a traditional firm structure you would think of with a hierarchy. So there wasn't a real clear path to partner there, which was really what prompted the switch. I loved the experience, loved the people I worked with, but there wasn't a path for that career progression.
So when you moved to the next smaller firm, but you stayed there only 1.5 years, did you make a partner at that time in just within 1.5 years? That's why you left?
No, so that was I went over there, and I mean, as I say, the grass isn't always greener. But once I began working with a person, and like truly one of the best individuals that I know, but our styles were so different that it wasn't going to work as a long term partnership. Just in the way we thought and operated. Uh, so that was I learned a lot, but at that point, kind of had hit the stage that I decided I wanted to give. Basically, I wanted to bet on myself. Like I had seen enough of the market, seen how people were doing things, saw that there was evolving technology that could be better embraced than what a lot of traditional small firms were doing. So at that point, I started looking to basically the two options I was considering was I was going to start a firm from scratch and look for a part-time controller job so that I could have enough money to cover my mortgage while I worked to build up a CPA firm, or I wanted to purchase a CPA firm. As it so happened, there was a firm that came up on the market in my area with a CPA who wanted to do a long-term transition, which was really the exact opportunity that I was looking for. So, I mean, similar to, I think a common theme you might find throughout my story is luck. And again, there aren't that many CPA firms that go up for sale, aren't that many in a specific region that have a partner that wants to do a long-term transition. So the timing of that truly was, luck or God's timing or whatever you choose to call it.
Were you nervous at that time when you decide to make that purchase?
Yeah, terrified. I'll give you an idea. So the first staff meeting we did, so there were four of us in this office, and I had bought. It was the very first day that I technically owned the firm, and I picked up coffee and donuts for everybody, and I'm in the office ready to make my first speech to the rah speech to the team that I'm now in charge of. Immediately, as soon as I sit down, I knock my coffee all over the desk. Spill it on myself. Everybody around the table gets coffee on it. So that was the level of nerves that I had and how I kicked off my path as a firm owner.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. And so did people laugh?
Yeah. Laughed. I think a couple of them were probably polishing up on their resume to see, in case I ran the thing into the ground by day 2. But
so how many people at that firm when you purchased?
So there were 2 full-time people, basically the CPA that owned it, and then a long-time accountant that had been together for 25 years. And had some kind of part-time tax season help.